wind and rain, dangerous lightning, damaging hail, deadly tornadoes. When severe weather strikes, 2 Works For You is shielding you from the storm. Over the next half hour, the 2 Works For You weather team and the 2 News problem solvers show you what to do to stay safe in every situation. See amazing video like this and incredible stories of survival, loss, and courage in the face of deadly disasters.
It was like an atomic bomb had went off.
Learn how to protect your family during a tornado and how to avoid getting ripped off if you do become a victim.
We don't want Oklahomans taken advantage of.
Plus, go behind the scenes for a look at how we track storms and the new technology that's keeping you safe. Now, from Green Country's certified most accurate weather team, 2 Works For You Storm Shield. Brought to you by Hard Rock Hotel and Casino.
Thanks for joining us. I'm 2 News Chief Meteorologist Dan Threlkeld.
And I'm meteorologist George Flickinger. That's all on the way.
But we begin first with the sound of terror caught on camera.
It's okay. It's okay. I think we're going to do it.
May 22nd, 2011, Joplin, Missouri. Around 20 strangers huddled together in the darkness of a walk-in cooler. Men, women, and children cry, scream, and pray as a massive tornado envelops the gas station where they've taken shelter. Capturing it all on his cell phone camera, 23-year-old Isaac Duncan.
When debris started hitting pretty hard, the question was asked, like, should we go in there? And right when that was asked, you can hear it on the video, but right when that was asked, that's when the glass got sucked out.
Millions of people have watched Isaac's video on YouTube, but the video only tells part of the story. Coming up, Isaac takes us back to the gas station, now rebuilt, where he shares what it's like to be in the heart of a storm, the deadly tornado that leveled 1/3 of his hometown. In severe weather, tornadoes aren't the only cause for concern.
Other powerful forces can be just as destructive. Strong winds reduce a 2-story house to rubble in just seconds. Now, there's no one home here, and there's no injuries. That's because it's only a test. It's one of several the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety has conducted over the past few years. Now, 2 News meteorologist Brittany Rainey visited their South Carolina facility.
She witnessed a first-of-its-kind test putting a home and a car against an onslaught of hail.
In just 4 minutes, they pummeled a house, car, and patio furniture with more than 8,000 stones, ranging in size from 1 to 2 inches at speeds up to 76 miles per hour.
Most of the damage was on the roof, which is what we would expect because the roof is your first line of defense.
They worked to get the density and hardness of hailstones correct, even traveling to Oklahoma for field research during the summer.
When you get up there and look at the roof, the impact rated product has done much better than the non-impact rated product, which is what you would expect.
So what can we learn from this?
Our typical recommendation is when you're putting a new roof on, take it down to the deck and put the material on there so it's got a nice solid foundation, and then it will perform better. The roofs are the most important thing to get right.
IBHS says putting a new roof over existing roofing creates air pockets, which lead to bigger pock marks when struck by hailstones. When looking to replace your roofing, researchers recommend asking questions about impact-resistant products and talking to your builder. Because one thing is for certain, it's not a matter of if Mother Nature will strike, it's when. For those researchers, this is just the tip of the iceberg. They plan to test other roofing material and hope their research will lead them to a better understanding of hailstorms. Dan, George, back to you.
Thanks, Brittany. You know, hail isn't necessarily a predictor of a tornado, but it can and often accompany a large tornado.
Winds in a tornado can be as high as 250 miles per hour. Here in Oklahoma, we average 53 tornadoes per year. Last year, we had 63. Most tornadoes only last a few minutes, but for victims, the impact can last a lifetime.
One Joplin couple knows that all too well. They survived the city's deadly tornado, but they lost nearly everything they owned.
2 News anchor Brianne Palmerini checks back in with the Townsends.
Stan and his wife Barbara Townsend lost their home of 33 years in the Joplin tornado. This is what it looked like after the storm hit.
We figured we'd live the rest of our lives here.
Back then, the couple was trying to pick up the pieces of their lives, not sure what they would do for the future. But now, 2501 South Pitcher looks a lot different than it did 2 years ago. But Barbara and Stan Townsend no longer call it home. Nearly 2 years later, Stan and Barbara still live in Joplin, but a couple of miles from the line of destruction in a home with mature trees. That's part of the reason the Townsends decided not to move back.
The area was desolate and not very few trees, if any, and most of them was just trunks. But I could only stay about an hour, and I had to get out.
They sold their old property to a developer.
And the guy we sold it to told us we could come and look at it and see what it was like. We drove by it. We couldn't go inside of it.
And even though they still feel the pain of losing their home, they don't see this as a bad situation, and they consider themselves very lucky.
They were just things, and things don't really matter when it comes to your life and your family.
Very similar to the words his wife said right after the storm changed their lives.
There'll be tears and things that I miss and everything, but I don't think I'll ever forget the sight of what this is like and knowing how people have suffered.
Stan says despite the suffering, he does continue to look toward the future, and he's impressed by the way the community has come together.
This area has just been tremendously blessed, not by the loss of people, but by people, sharing with each other.
Brianne Palmerini, 2 News, works for you.
Here's what to do if you're home when a tornado strikes.
Stay away from the windows. Get to the basement. Now, if you don't have a basement, go to an interior room on the lowest level, a bathroom, closet, or hallway, and cover yourself with blankets or a mattress. Make sure you have a plan and that every family member knows it.
But what if you're not at home?
You should stay calm and know there are simple steps that you can take to stay safe wherever you are. Storms like this can strike anywhere at any time, leaving you homeless in mere moments. The most vulnerable, of course, are those that live in mobile homes. You need a safe place. This mobile home park, as early as the 1970s, did something about that. They built 6 of these huge storm shelters to give residents a place to go when the tornado nears.
We've got 6 shelters in the parks, and each shelter will hold 48 people.
Roger Harrison owns South Tulsa's Southern Villa Mobile Home Park. During severe weather, each of his more than 300 residents take cover in these underground shelters. It's the safest place to ride out a storm. But what happens if you're not at home? You might be at a mall or a grocery store. You need to have a plan. And no, they already have one.
In the event of severe weather, we will make an intercom page over the store, warning our customers of severe weather.
Research store manager James Ford is in charge of keeping shoppers safe.
Attention customers and employees, a tornado warning has been issued in our area.
He and his team are trained to move everyone to this windowless interior room like the one at the rear of the building. Tornadoes have targeted Oklahoma grocery stores before. In 2010, an EF4 leveled this Cleveland County store. 1 year later, Joplin's EF5 tornado destroyed a quarter of that city's supermarkets.
Golly, I can't. It's just overwhelming.
This surveillance video shows the same twister sending debris shooting through Joplin's East Middle School. The storm struck on a Sunday when most classes weren't in session. But what should students do if a tornado does come their way? At Tulsa's School of St. Mary, Principal Maureen Clements makes sure her kids are ready.
Being state accredited, we have to have tornado drills every year. And what we do is each teacher trains the children the first week of school. They walk them through where they're supposed to go, and then we have a drill, school-wide drill.
That is the tornado drill. We're going to walk down and go to our safe place.
The students leave their classroom, they walk quietly and under control to the shelter areas, where they remain until I'm able to go around and check and make sure everybody's where they need to be.
Students admit storms can be scary, but they feel better knowing they have a plan.
Make me feel safe knowing where I'm supposed to go. I would feel pretty scared, but protected knowing that we have a plan and we're going to be safe.
It makes me feel safe because I know it's going to be okay.
But even the best laid plans sometimes come unraveled.
There's always someone ready to swoop in and make a bad situation worse.
I was shocked that I was taken advantage of. I was hurt. I was upset.
This woman's encounter with a shady contractor could have killed her. Still ahead, the red flags you need to watch for.
Plus, Storm Chaser Secrets, a behind-the-scenes look at the tools and techniques we use to keep you safe.
Welcome back to Two Works for You Storm Shield, brought to you by Hard Rock. Storm chasers are the eyes and ears in the field during severe weather.
And when I can, I like to do some storm chasing myself, and here's how I do it. Living in green country, you've seen the pictures and video. How do storm chasers know how to safely chase storms and tornadoes? The first part of a storm chase actually occurs here in the Weather Center. Before the storms form, before they develop, we take a look at computer modeled data to see where the storms will be organizing and then where the storms will track. What I do, after analyzing the data, I head out with a photographer and Storm Chaser 2, usually driving west toward central and western Oklahoma. Getting you pictures and video of the storm. That's the #1 purpose of Storm Chaser 2. That way you know what's coming, and it's to keep you safe. With an onboard radar, XM satellite data, and a live weather station inside the vehicle, and by simply watching the clouds, we figure out which small cumulus clouds will develop the strongest updrafts. This is the key. The stronger, taller updrafts create the tallest clouds. As cloud tops exceed 50,000 feet high, huge storms organize. We watch for dominant storms. You've probably heard them called supercells. These damaging storms are usually isolated and or just ahead of a squall line of storms. Supercells can spawn tornadoes and monster hail. Right now I'm in the driver's seat of Storm Chaser 2. We have a video camera which is mounted on top of the dash. We can move the video camera around, zoom in, zoom out. The pictures that this camera picks up, we can show you live on television as it happens. Most tornadic storms in Oklahoma move from southwest to northeast or west to east, so I maintain a safe distance and, if possible, travel parallel to the storm. When I'm chasing the storm, I stay here to the south and east, and I remain south and east of the storm. That way I can avoid the hail and, of course, the tornado. Using years of experience, we position ourselves to avoid the hail, the tornado, and the worst wind. We videotape the storm so you know what's coming. Oh, look at that building! I shot this video on my iPhone last year. This is actually a small tornado. Watch it rip a metal barn to shreds. Now, it's always great to see a storm up close, but storm chasing can be very dangerous, and Dan, it should be left to the pros.
It should. And you know, it never fails. Once the damage is done, there's always some contractors who try to profit off of other people's loss. 2 News problem solver Pete Knudsen shows you how not to become their victim.
The next time a much stronger wind blows by her house and causes damage, Sandy Spiegel vows not to make the same mistake she made before, one that cost her dearly.
It was devastating. It was just earth-shattering when something like that happens.
When Sandy needed a new roof a couple of years ago, she paid the first contractor that showed up $6,000, only to find out the job was so shoddy the roof leaked. But that was the least of the problems. The roof job was slowly but surely poisoning Sandy.
I could have died. Yeah, I could have died.
That contractor had covered up vents in the roof, trapping carbon monoxide in Sandy's home. She was left to recover from that poisoning and come up with thousands of dollars more to get her roof repaired correctly.
I was shocked that I was taken advantage of. I was hurt. I was upset.
Stories like Sandy's are behind several new anti-fraud units like this one, State Insurance Commissioner John Doak tells us.
This sends a very, very strong message that we don't want Oklahomans taken advantage of.
The commissioner says his investigators are ready to jump into those vehicles and swarm storm-damaged neighborhoods this spring, ready to help and answer questions and scare away less than legit contractors. It's a time when affected homeowners feel overwhelmed and helpless, ripe for those fly-by-night contractors that investigator Rick Cook says follow those storms.
At times like that's what the bad guys prey on, is they know that they're catching people in a weak moment when they're desperate.
Many times they target senior citizens, Commissioner Doak says, but anyone can become their victim. He says there's one big don't in the aftermath of a storm. Don't hand over any big amounts of cash to a contractor who shows up on your doorstep.
Wait. You know, if they're reputable, they'll be around in a week or 10 days, but don't make that transaction of money, because you may pay them and then they may never come back.
So here's your storm aftermath checklist. Don't do anything until you talk to your insurance agent. When it's time to make repairs, ask family and friends about contractors they recommend. Then check their references. Make sure they're licensed and bonded.
and make sure roofing contractors are on the state registry of qualified roofing contractors.
I wouldn't wish this on anybody.
Sandy certainly doesn't need any more convincing. The next time she needs work done on her home, she'll do her homework first. Pete Knutson, 2 News works for you.
Now, there are simple steps to take when filing an insurance claim, but you need to have the preparation well before the storm strikes.
One homeowner whose roof was damaged in the historic ice storm offers this advice.
We all hear about this happening to other people, but we take that attitude of, oh, poor them, but it didn't happen to me, and we don't prepare.
David White followed the 4 steps the insurance commissioner suggests, and his claim went smoothly. His story online now at kgrh.com. Technology is constantly changing the way we track storms.
The latest advances allows us to be more accurate than ever before. 2 News meteorologist Taft Price reveals the newest tools we'll use to keep you safe.
New technology will allow us to get a better look at severe storms than ever before. Instead of just seeing wind speeds and directions within a storm, we will now be able to track small differences in precipitation that can help keep you safer. That technology is called dual polarization radar, or dual pol for short.
Well, historically, Weather Service radars sent out a beam that was horizontal in orientation. Now we're sending out both horizontal and vertical, so there's 2 polarizations, so the word dual pol, and it helps us understand what's in the radar beam.
It will be quite helpful in short-term forecasting as it will show us how a storm is changing.
Well, being able to see kind of what's inside the beam lets you know how the weather patterns are evolving and kind of where the freezing level is in the atmosphere. So in the wintertime, we can see changes in the atmosphere that may tell us that the precipitation is about to change over to a wintry type. It also helps during severe weather identifying rotating storms that may have debris in them.
It was installed at the Northeastern Oklahoma NexRad site in Inola last fall and will help us this severe weather season, especially when it's related to hail and tornadoes doing damage.
Well, the dual pol should help us see the hail cores within the storm, and so if there's any doubt about a storm producing hail, we should have more definite signatures about that, so we should be able to state with a little more authority about the severe weather potential from a storm in regard to the hail. Also, for tornadoes, when a strong tornado occurs, it lofts debris up in the air, and the dual pol data will help us know that there's debris within the beam. And even on a dark night at 2 in the morning, maybe in the middle of Osage County where there's no eyes to be put on it, we'll be able to say with certainty there is a tornado occurring in the middle of Osage County.
Dual pol will be instrumental in helping us to keep you safe during severe weather. Dan and George, back to you.
Thanks, Taft. Still ahead, face-to-face with Joplin's devastating tornado.
Viral video of 20 strangers brush with death and a trip back to where it happened with the man behind the camera.
It's okay. Oh my God. It's okay. I think we're gonna do it.
It's viral video seen and heard by millions on YouTube and on news broadcasts around the world. About 20 strangers panic as a massive and deadly tornado swallows up a Joplin gas station. This very humble young man shot the video on his cell phone. He wonders why he lived and so many others died.
Now he relives those tense moments, taking 2 News anchor Brianne Palmerini back to where he came face to face with one of the worst tornadoes in U.S. history.
25-year-old Isaac Duncan has lived around the Joplin area for his entire life. He's a musician, and sometimes he can live only on what his music provides. He says this song is about the tornado. We met up with Isaac nearly 2 years after the video was taken at the very place he took shelter.
We're really just driving around listening to the Cardinals and Royals game. And growing up here, you always hear about tornadoes. You know, there's always alarms going off and stuff during the summer. And I don't think we actually really thought that it was going to be that big of a deal.
But that day, he and his friends did heed the warning.
They broke in and said that there was severe weather and the alarms went off.
And stopped at the Fast Trip gas station on 20th Street.
That's when the video starts. Like right when we walked in the door, I clicked record.
The video is only 5.5 minutes long. You can barely see just a few shots of lightning.
It's mostly just audio.
But only about 2 minutes in, things change. Just 2 minutes illustrates just how close Isaac and his friends cut it when it came to seeking shelter.
We're good. We're good.
And that was when all of the about 20 people stranded at the Fast Trip took shelter in the store's beer cooler. And just in time.
While we were all standing in there, everyone was kind of like grabbing onto each other and holding. There was some debris already like flying in, just little stuff. And then the glass bottles were breaking.
I love everyone. I love everyone, man. Yeah, I love all you guys. We're gonna be okay. I love you.
Jesus, Jesus, Heavenly Father.
Thank you, guys. All okay? Yes.
When it was all over, everyone at the Fast Stop survived with minor injuries.
Yeah, I'm okay. All right, I'm trying not to lay on someone.
Somebody's on my back.
And that beer cooler likely saved all of their lives.
The building was gone. Pretty much the only thing that was standing was the cooler. We're right in here.
Just days later, Isaac went back to the scene and took another video.
That right there is where we climbed out.
The scene is nearly identical to miles of damage around the city.
But we climbed right here. That's what we saw.
But in many other situations, people were not so fortunate, which is why it's difficult for Isaac to put into words what it was like.
It's hard to be in that position sometimes because at other places, people did the exact same thing and it just was different.
He says he watches it sometimes.
Like it's kind of made me appreciate things more, I think. It brings up a lot of different memories. Some of them like good, some of them bad.
He does appreciate what it means for the nearly 4.5 million people who have shared his emotional experience on YouTube. But he doesn't want the video to take away from the stories of loss and the true impact the tornado had on the entire city of Joplin.
For me, you know, this is just one small story out of a town who everyone in it was affected.
Brianne Palmerini, 2 News works for you.
Thanks, Brianne, and our thanks also to Isaac for sharing his incredible story.
All right, still ahead, the important tool that could save your life when severe weather strikes. Welcome back to 2 Works for You Storm Shield, brought to you by Hard Rock. 2 News meteorologists use the latest technology to bring you Green Country's most accurate weather info. Now there's a great tool you can use to keep you and your family safe, and Dan has more on our Storm Shield app.
You've heard us talk about Storm Shield, but what is it? This is what it looks like when you download it for your iPad, your smartphone. 5 locations that you can customize and select because you want to follow the weather where you're at, but if you decide to follow where the kids or the grandparents are or where somebody that you know and love are, you can do that as well. Let's click on Port Charlotte and immediately we find out there's a marine warning as well as a tornado watch, but more than that, I can also find out what the radar looks like, so I can actually tell them what's going on where they live. A very cool thing that this thing has the ability to do. Also live video. On this app, we'll be streaming video from our tower cams and other sources, and you can follow that if you have Storm Shield as well. And how about school closings? Very neat thing to have because we'll be pushing that information to the Storm Shield app, and you can tell the kids, hey kids, you are going to school today. I just got the very latest information. And the most important thing it has is you customize it for the information that you want. Let's see, I want to find out about storms, but I'm not too concerned about tornado watches. All I want are the warnings, so I'm just going to turn off the watches. I'm going to turn off the severe thunderstorm watches, the weather statements, but leave on the tornado warnings. I really am not concerned about flooding. If you're not, you turn those off. If you are, you turn them on. Information about winter weather, information about snow, ice, and so much more. It's set up to provide you with the information that you need when you need it. It's Storm Shield, and you need to own it. Thanks for watching and choosing Green Country's most accurate weather team.
When severe weather strikes, we hope you'll count on us to shield you from the storm.